It's Friday, February 25. This is the news on PBCJ. Happy Jamaica Day. I am Simone Absalom Gill. Jamaica is closely monitoring the unfolding crisis in Eastern Europe, where Russia has invaded Ukraine. The development has been condemned by several international states, with Prime Minister Andrew Holness joining with global counterparts in expressing great concern. In condemning the invasion, Mr. Holness says it does not augur well for global peace and prosperity, nor Jamaica's own timely and sustained economic recovery. He also stressed the need for respect for the territorial integrity and sovereignty of all nations.
As a small country with an open economy and an open society, we depend, and indeed we support, the multilateral cooperative system of nations in resolving international disputes. Jamaica is consistent in its support for the universal respect and adherence to the principles of international law, the respect for the territorial integrity and sovereignty of all nations. We therefore cannot support, and in fact, we condemn the invasion of Ukraine.
Mr. Holness is also concerned about the impact of the crisis on global energy prices and the commodities trade. He also warns of the implications of international sanctions against Russia.
While it is still the early phase of the crisis, we expect that the impact on Jamaica could be through the global energy prices, oil prices in particular, and possibly through some commodities, maybe wheat, flour prices. We are also monitoring the possible effects as a result of the imposition of international sanctions, which could impose obligations on Jamaica in terms of ensuring that the sanctions are effective.
The 15-member Caribbean community, CARICOM, in a statement on Thursday, joined the global community in strongly condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine and called for an immediate and complete withdrawal of military forces from the Eastern European country. CARICOM also called for all parties to urgently embark on intensified diplomatic dialogue to immediately de-escalate hostilities and work towards a sustainable peace. Chief Executive Officer of the Consumer Affairs Commission, Dulcie Allen, says the C.A.C. has collected $23.3 million in compensation year-to-date on behalf of consumers. She made the disclosure during a virtual press conference on Thursday. Chief Executive Officer of the Consumer Affairs Commission, Dulcie Allen, says when compared to last year, the numbers are basically along the same path in terms of complaints.
Year to date, we have handled 1,431 complaints, and we have resolved 911. Now, this is just about a 64% resolution rate.
The top categories of complaints continues to be electrical equipment and appliances, along with utilities.
29.18% of our complaints accounted for in this category. And utilities, 16.92%. Now, in recent times, we have seen some uptick in complaints as it relates to utility complaints. And the basic problem is really service delivery, internet telecoms, drop calls, broadband issues, the JPS and Water Commission, the problem with their billing, and just in terms of service delivery also.
She says other services account for 13.69%. Meanwhile, electrical equipment tops the compensation categories as well.
And this continues throughout the years. The number one complaint is really in this area. And so we have $5.8 million that we have collected on behalf of aggrieved consumers. Motor vehicle and parts is next in line, 4.293 million, and furniture 1.4 million.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness says changes are coming to the operations of the Customs and Firearms Licensing Authority following recent revelations surrounding its issuance of gun licenses. He addressed the matter during a groundbreaking ceremony for a police station in Stony Hill on Thursday.
We considered the removal of any residual discretion of the minister to approve firearms licenses. We also considered the introduction of new technologies for the marking and tracing of firearms and ammunition. And we discussed and approved a new and more in-depth system of vetting of persons at the FLA and of customs as well. And we also considered and approved the changing of the requirement to serve on the FLA board, that anyone who is going to be recommended to serve on the FLA board must pass the fit and proper criteria. You know, if you're going to serve on a financial institution, you have to pass fit and proper. Much more you're going to be serving on an institution that could determine whether or not somebody is killed. Fit and proper is necessary. So these are some changes that the National Security Council have debated and considered. They are going to be finalized. I'm just giving you a pre-say of what is to come. The Minister of National Security and the Commissioner of Police will give you more information.
The police continues to benefit from significant public support in pursuit of criminal elements. This from Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson, who is reporting success in the fight against crime.
Since the publication of the National Wanted List a few weeks ago, some 16 persons have been arrested and charged for several violent crimes, and one was fatally shot and an AK-47 removed from them. This is a follow-on from our Wanted Wednesday campaign, which has been running since last year and has seen 28 wanted persons arrested and charged and 2 fatally shot. We have been tracking a 22% increase in firearm seizures, with twice as many rifles being seized so far this year over last year. Over the last 2 days, 2 illegal guns have been seized right here in the St. Andrew North Division, although not in Stony Hill.
Addressing Thursday's groundbreaking ceremony in Stony Hill, the police chief welcomed the investment in local law enforcement.
The investments made in improving the quality of life, work environment, capability, and capacity of our police force significantly impacts policing outcomes and clearly allows us to build public confidence in what we do. When persons walk into these facilities, it's a different thing, and our officers who come to work here will feel differently about what they do. So the JSAF will continue to leverage the confidence of the public, the relationship we have with our public, and our leaders, our public leaders, to get the guns, arrest the gunmen, disrupt and dismantle the guns, and provide a better service for the people in the communities that we serve.
In his address, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang notes that when he took over the ministry 4 years ago, he found police stations in a deplorable situation. However, he says his government has set about to rectify the situation, and it aims to develop a modern and properly equipped police force.
I just want to reassure the society and to the audience here in Stony Hill that this government has given a commitment and sticking to it. The Stony Hill police station being rebuilt is just one more step on that journey. But despite of COVID, despite of other challenges, we are committed to ensure that the public safety is taken care of and that the government's policy is seeking to ensure, create that environment, because on that basis that we'll ensure that true prosperity and real development will take place.
Cabinet has approved the award of several multi-million-dollar contracts to private sector entities to provide various services to government. Among them is a $117 million contract to Guardian Life Limited to provide group insurance for employees of the National Health Fund. Minister without portfolio in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for information, Robert Morgan, provided details at this week's virtual post-cabinet press brief.
We also had the approval of contracts for panic alarm system at Garmex Free Zone by the Garmex Group to the value of $81 million, as well as approval of contracts for ground maintenance services at Pbcj for $69 million, as well as closed user group services to Cable and Wireless Jamaica Limited for the Ministry of Finance and Public Service for $34 million, and the approval of a provision of preventative maintenance services of air traffic management systems for US $2 million to Thales Air Systems C.A.C, and the award of contract for the provision of group health and life and accidental death, dismemberment and disability insurance for the employees of the National Health Fund to the tune of $117 million to Guardian Life Limited.
Additionally, Cabinet also approved amendments to the Insurance Act, an increase in the minimum wage, and the proposed Information and Communications Technology in Education policy. Also addressing the post-cabinet press briefing, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Matthew Samuda, provided an update on 3 matters related to environmental management, among them illegal sand mining in the Great Bay Treasure Beach area.
We can report that at this stage an enforcement notice and a cessation order have been served on the individual that would have been mining illegally sand in the Great Bay area. This space would have been, the space rather, that would have been mined is what we would classify as a sand dune. It is of particular concern to the residents, and I wish to assure all residents of the Great Bay area and extension the Treasure Beach area that we will be taking steps to ensure that the area is rehabilitated appropriately. We wish to also advise citizens that we will be moving to ensure that the full extent of the law is applied to this case. There is a broader point, however, that we wish to bring across to citizens. We encourage you to bring to our attention matters of environmental concern. NEPA, the police, no enforcement agency will ever have the full footprint that we wish we would have in Jamaica. So we need you to be our eyes and ears.
Mr. Samuda also updated the country on the new emissions and climate change policy.
Climate change is indeed real, and it is a clear and present danger to Jamaica. This policy framework, to which we have consulted widely, is very important to help the government to appropriately plan for the changes that have already happened and those that are to come. The argument is often made that countries, middle to low income like Jamaica, are not the major contributors to climate change. However, we are the countries that are most affected. And as a global climate leader, we believe it's important for us to also chart the way forward with appropriate climate action while we also adapt and ensure that our systems, our infrastructure is resilient enough to manage the changes which are to come.
He also revealed that Jamaica will, on Monday, participate in the United Nations Environmental Assembly in Nairobi, at which it intends to strongly state its position on biodiversity loss and plastics pollution. Government has allocated over $100 million to complete the establishment of United Nations or UN House in Jamaica during the upcoming fiscal year. Funding provisions have been made in the 2022-2023 estimates of expenditure now before the House of Representatives. The project, being implemented by the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation through the National Land Agency with funding from the Government of Jamaica, seeks to renovate Block 11 to 14 and 16 Port Royal Street in Kingston for use as UN offices. For the new fiscal year, external works will be completed at the location, including fencing, the establishment of a security building and systems, softscaping and hardscaping. The project, which began in April 2017, is now scheduled to end in March 2023, following several extensions. Up to December 2021, under the project, demolition activities were undertaken in sections of the existing structure, and existing building floors 1 to 3 were renovated. Printing of driver's licenses at the Maypen tax office is suspended. We get the details of this story plus the daily market updates and news on the local oil prices with the business report with Danita Rodney.
Tax Administration Jamaica (C.A.C) says the printing of driver's licenses at the Maypen tax office is suspended until further notice. In a release, the tax authority says the suspension is due to hardware issues with the branch's driver's license printer, a delay impacting the usual 20-day turnaround time. C.A.C says it will not be processing any applications. However, licenses already slated for printing will be done off-site and returned to the tax office for pickup. Taxpayers are reminded that payments for the renewal of their driver's licenses can be done online via the C.A.C website, and the following documents are needed to complete their transaction: a printed copy of their receipt, completed application for the driver's license transactions, Form F7, passport-size photograph of the applicant, no less than 6 months old and not certified, and a copy of the expired or current driver's license, if available. C.A.C apologized for the inconvenience caused by the suspension and said it would continue to monitor the situation and work towards resolving the matter with its service provider. And the tax authority is reminding the public that select tax offices will once again be open for business on Saturday, February 26. The following tax offices will operate this Saturday between the hours of 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. St. Andrew, Montego Bay, Mandeville, Savannah Lamar, St. Anne's Bay, and Old Harbor. The Portmore Tax Office will continue its usual weekly Saturday operations with the adjusted business hours of 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Persons will be able to access taxpayer service activities as the tax authority continues to provide additional access to its services.
In foreign exchange trading for Thursday, February 24, the U.S. dollar sold for an average $155.93. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $122.88. The pound sterling traded for $210.70, and the euro sold for an average $178.26. In Thursday's trading session, the following reflect the movement of the C.A.C indices. The C.A.C index declined by 1,576 points to close at over 390,000 units. The junior market index declined by 18 points to close at over 3,000 units. The combined market index declined by 1,638 points to close at over 400,000 units. And the all Jamaican composite index declined by 2,053 points to close at over 443,000 units. Overall market activities resulted from trading in 100 stocks, of which 32 advanced, 57 declined, and 11 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Access Financial Services Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Cargo Handlers Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Trading firm were 1834 Investments Limited, Consolidated Bakeries Jamaica Limited, and Epley 7.50% preference shares due 2024. Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares was the volume leader with over 7.9 million units, followed by Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 3 million units, and SSL Venture Capital Jamaica Limited with over 3 million units. In market data for oil prices slipped on Friday after sharp rises in the session on concern over potential global supply disruptions from sanctions on major crude exporter Russia. Brent crude futures was down 33 cents or 0.3% to $98.75 a barrel after climbing to as high as $101.99. West Texas Intermediate crude was down 30 cents or 0.3% to $92.51 a barrel after hitting a session high of $95.64. And that does it for the extended edition of the Business Report Inside the News on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In news from across the region, we begin in the Bahamas, where residents are being prompted to brace for higher prices at the pumps amid Russia's attack on Ukraine. One Esso dealer predicted consumers could pay $6 per gallon. Sharika Johnson has the details in this report.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine may cause gas prices to skyrocket, according to Paul Hepburn, a proprietor of Esso gas station, who warned consumers to expect gas prices to hit $6 per gallon.
It's only going up and up. And if you notice in the newspaper, yes, there was talk about $6 a gallon. That is real, people.
Hepburn suggests consumers keep their gas tanks full, as they could feel the increase in fuel prices within the next month.
It may not last long, but we don't know. But it's coming.
Russia is recognized as the world's second largest oil producer, and its attack on Ukraine caused turbulence in the financial markets. Fuel increased to $105 a barrel. This after experts say there was a rise in more than 8% on the international markets.
Keep in mind, Russia, 10% of the fuel that the world uses comes from there. So you're going to have a reduction right there. And now we have to deal with the fuel from the rest around the world. So it increases demand.
For our news, I'm Sharika Johnson.
In St. Kitts and Nevis, plans are set for rebuilding the country's tourism sector with the inclusion of community-based tourism. Glenn Bart outlines comments made by industry officials about government's plans.
Rebuilding the tourism industry on St. Kitts will have to involve community tourism development that was interrupted with the start of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, according to Minister of Tourism Lindsay Grant. Minister Grant said community-based tourism remains an essential component of the St. Kitts tourism product that affects lives and livelihoods of residents. At the time, Grant was speaking with the news media during a 23rd February press conference at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort.
We really had a good projection for 2-3 years when the pandemic came. In fact, we had projected to build out in the area of challenges. The Kalinago village, which goes back to our historical times of the Bloody River exposition. And so we are still minded to do that, but obviously we are restricted in terms of funds at the moment, but that is still on the books. The other project we had for community-based tourism was basically to build out on the Eco Park, which we are continuing. And the Eco Park is very important for us, because if you would recall, the Eco Park, within about 100 yards of the Eco Park, the St. Kitts Scenic Railway puts off a number of passengers in the area. And we have already had conversations with the Scenic Railway to see if we can optimize the use of the Eco Park by having those visitors dropped off right at the Eco Park, and we make a tour of the Eco Park. And so we're adding a lot of things to the Eco Park to add value. For us, community-based tourism is very, very important, and we've started the work on the ground in terms of radio programs, TV programs to get an awareness out.
The tourism minister indicated that radio and TV programs have been launched as part of the process of raising awareness among the local population on the various community assets in the country's tourism product. Glenn Barth reporting for SK Newsline.
And in St. Lucia, government is making good on its promise to increase opportunities for access to higher education. More details from HTS News Force.
Education can open doors and help persons progress and develop in life. Throughout the election campaign, the son of policeman and teacher, now Prime Minister, Philip J. Pierre, had made it clear that his dream was to have at least one university graduate in every household in St. Lucia. Now comes word that the Human Resource Development Department of the Education Ministry will be soon engaging officials overseas in attempts to procure more higher education opportunities for students in St. Lucia. This is one of Education Minister Sean Edwards' priorities enunciated during the National Awards of Excellence.
Our mandate for the next 4 years, is, among other things, is to increase access to higher education. So soon from today, the staff from the Department of Human Resource Development, what we call HRD, will be tasked or be given the responsibility to go out there, North America, Europe, and engage reputable educational institutions with a view to partnering the government of St. Lucia and the South Louis Community College to make scholarships available to young St. Lucians.
Edward, who underscored the importance of education, noted that the world of labor had evolved and citizens must also be equipped with the skills to thrive.
It is not enough these days to just prepare somebody for a job in St. Lucia. Our education system is about producing world-class citizens, so that if circumstances force your migration, it does not matter where in this world you decide to set up shop, we would have armed you with the skills, the knowledge, and the aptitude to make a contribution and to support yourself, support your family, and support your country.
In sports, Jamaica's under-20 Reggae girls are now in the Dominican Republic ahead of the CONCACAF Championships in the Dominican Republic. The girls have their eyes set on qualifying for the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup. Jamaica, drawn in Group H, will face Guatemala on Saturday, Cuba next Monday, and round out their group assignments against Haiti on Wednesday, March 2. The top 3 teams of the tournament will qualify for a 2022 FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup and will join host nation Costa Rica as the CONCACAF representatives. Jamaica's Olympic gold medalist Brianna Williams will be available to represent Jamaica at the 2022 World Indoor Championships in Belgrade from March 18 to March 20. Williams, who will be 20 the day after the end of the championships, is the second fastest Jamaican woman in the world this year after she ran 7.09 seconds over 60 meters at the New Balance Grand Prix in New York on February 6. Only Lane Thompson-Herah, who ran 7.04 at the Orlen Copernicus Cup in Torun, Poland on Tuesday, has run faster than the Florida-based teen, whose coach Otto Bolden confirmed her availability. And that's the news on PBCJ. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, we are the People's Station.